So it's been a couple days. Let's dive into what's going on. Early November, Star Citizen 315 PTUs are very active. 314.1 is still live. We're in like PTU O, I think, now. And the reason I say think is because they're saying they're assessing yet another build for PTU. Uh, some prominent YouTuber just posted up a video suggesting 315 live tonight. I think that's a bit ambitious. Uh, but I feel that this week would certainly be do or die for CIG to get their ducks in a row for 315 PTU into turning it into live. Now, let's think about where we're at right now. I don't see a lot on what they're showing off here. I think that's what they're going with, and what I suspect they're probably arguing. It just got posted now, so I didn't have a chance to check it out. But the narrative team posted up some information about different things, personnel armors, resizing. Uh, Now that we're into Wednesday, we're talking about going into the Squadron 42 monthly report, which, reminder, Squadron 42 is a ways off. There's a lot of success there. There's Rich Tyrer has moved from the PU, and he was like the all-star for the past couple patches, and he is now moving over to the Squadron 42 team, and both Chris and Sandy intend to move to England to finish the first part of Squadron 42. So I've kind of cut some flack for mentioning in the community on a few different posts about how I believe that next year will be a very strong year for Squadron 42. That doesn't mean right now, but I think there will be a lot of success. I think there will be a lot of things to think about there for the community, for the team that is working on it. And I've said before, I hope after Squadron 42 Part 1 is completed, or should I say Episode 1, depending on who you ask, I hope that it is basically paused at that point, and iterative patches are done, of course, but more resources are then put on the PU and really bringing that up to snuff, really seeing through a couple different systems at once. Yes, I dare said that. So Thursday we have a brand new Inside Star Citizen coming up. So you're going to see in this video, we're going to run through the past week's videos, which I'll be honest with you, there's only smaller things I caught in them that are really exciting to me. And then on Friday, they're talking about the subscriber vaults, the usual stuff. And they'll do the Star Citizen Live. Pretty cool one, concept artist. Now, with the concept art teams, folks, sometimes it can be really interesting. It can be like, a day in the life of that person designing something brand spanking new. Sometimes it can be talking about what they've done in the past. So I hope it's kind of a mix of both. That'd be really exciting. Remember that new content they create is mainly just for the show, but it does show you their process. It shows the workflows, really cool stuff that we rarely get to see. So cool stuff. The persistent streaming and server meshing Q&A is coming up this week. I think the top question on that list was still, the last time I checked, was when. Just the word when with a question mark. And that's pretty valid on my feelings too. I'm sorry, I'm usually very positive, but I wish they'd give us at least rough ideas of where they think, and just put huge disclaimers above, below, to the sides that understand this could change 50 times. And if it does change, we'll give you a heads up. I'm not saying day to day, but every few months there should be some perspective on where that's going. I appreciated the Citizen Gov videos. I showed you the Twitch post by one of the top design team, and I think that where we're at will come full circle in that Q&A. So be sure to keep an eye out for that Q&A. Let's see what's going on. I mean, that's kind of what I am. I'm not pessimistic, but at the same time, I need to see where we're going with things before I kind of get excited about it at this point. So, I'm trying a new audio chain. I'm also adjusted my audio settings, so bear with me. And it looks like I have my first hiccup. I will not be able to keep it full screen. It looks like that same hotkey does not work in Brave. Great. So let's talk about the monthly report in October. Now, the monthly report is right here in my eyes, Pyro, but uh, that's down the line. What I noticed was it AI tech or was it AI features? Sorry about scrolling so fast, guys. Um, you know the reaction animations, characters, robust. That's I'm starting to see this in 315 PTUs that characters are now leaning against walls. Character AI are checking their Moby Glass more. They're kind of like acting like human beings a bit more. When they're standing at the bar, they don't just stand there like as if they're the opposite of the bartender. They're actually kind of fidgeting a little bit, drinking, moving around the room a little bit. When they do function, they're pretty cool. But that's not the main thing. Here we go. Ship AI. Concentrating on improvements to targeting and accuracy, improve the way AI used missiles in combat, and introduce ways to allow mission logic to force or request prioritization of a specific target. A PID controller was also implemented for accuracy that provides better results and makes it easier to adjust based on AI skills. That right there is one of the basic things that has to be nailed down before we even talk about AI gunners on people's ships. And that's kind of important because people tend to have pretty big ships. There's quite a few ships in the game right now and upcoming that require at least 2 or 3 gunners. And unless you can think right now who's on my friends list constantly in the same time zone at all times, that is, I can get 2 or 3 folks on my ship, you're going to have a hard time. But if all of a sudden now you can hire a couple AI folks to be your gunners, that's pretty exciting stuff. And that certainly opens the door to more, I wouldn't call them soloable ships. That's a, we, in the community, we try to run away from that word, but semi soloable. It would be best to have at least one other human being on board, keeping an eye on the AI, making sure they're not wandering off the break, sitting in the the mess, or laying in their bunk and not moving, and not available for the fight. And also keeping an eye on putting out fires or something else like that as damage control comes online, defending the ship. I don't think AI is going to be that robust, but I do think that AI gunners are going to be something that is going to be very exciting. And this isn't just for the PU. Just a lot of things come from Squadron 42 side of house. The majority of developers develop for Squadron 42. The PU happens to get some of the results. Some of the ships we have were only there because they were made for Squadron, or at least that they were developed for Squadron, and then they realized, hey, these would also be useful in the PU, or hey, we can get these over to the PU. So that's something to keep in mind whenever you're looking at a design theory and going, why doesn't this exactly have this? Like the Idris is a hero ship. It has all the items on board for cutscenes and for a ship that looks like it's living, breathing with all the people on board. That's why it has so many services, and it looks overkill for its size because they realize that crews need at least 2 crews, 12-hour shifts, and in a real ship, they would be, half the crew would be recreating, sleeping, eating, whatever. The other half would be working. So that's why the ship is so dang overbuilt. And this is an example of that. You have a situation where AI are starting to be thought about, and we are learning some of those lessons from Squadron, and then they're coming over to the PU. Am I saying you're going to need 60 plus people to be on, even if they're just AI, on your Idris? No, I'm not saying that. But I am saying that you need to think about that some of them might need to sleep once in a while, eat once in a while, etc. And that will be a factor. And AI in general, the first tiny step we can take is start being able to get gunners. And this is what we need for gunning. And this isn't just particularly about gunners, but I decided to pick on this. And missile tech, by the way, is important too, because if, say, you have an AI co-pilot, the missiles on board can be commanded by your co-pilot. You could task them to handle missile tech. That was a huge push in our current patch that's live. So keep that in mind. These are things that certainly boil out. And now that I've gone really deep with this, I'll go back to the surface level. At the surface, this should give you, in the next couple patches, a better experience during missions. So being able to have opponents that are combating you more accurately and fighting you and target prioritization better. So you're not all they're not all picking on the wrong person, or maybe they are, depending on the severity and difficulty of the mission. They mentioned in internal testing when they did I think it was the Ninetales lockdown, that the larger ships started prioritizing targets and they were just blapping fighters off the field, and they were players, and they were saying like the play testers were like, this is not fun. So they purposely nerfed the gunnery so it didn't all hit the same target. But when you actually played it in live, the guns had a hard time even hitting a target that wasn't big. So there's going to need to be better AI. It's going to need to be balanced based on the difficulty and severity of the mission. But it needs to be there. The threat needs to be there to be exciting. The threat needs to be there to be something to defeat and be confident and be proud that you and your friends have taken down. So I think that's a fun little side note there. So they talked about the mining gadget. We're going to see more about the mining gadgets in the video that I'm going to show in a little bit, the highlights of. But really cool stuff. I think with a lot of the monthly report, you have really cool stuff that really kind of sneaks in, like cleaned up bugs and polishes and such. And then they mention that the Ares will have several new paints. Now, one of the funny things about how they write things is the art team's like, oh, yeah, we made these new paints for the Crusader Ares. You know, a ship that players don't even have access to, even in the PTU. So it's like the Ion and the Inferno. Oh, yeah, we made some new paints for it. It's a ship not even out yet. So I am going to go out on a whim here and suggest there may be some paints available during the IAE ship sale when we know the Ares will be flyable, both the Inferno and the Ion, and there'll be multiple paints available. That is continuing the trend we already knew, but it's nice to be reassured, and that we know there'll be multiple of said paints. And by the way, I really like CIG pushing paints, because they are something that does not give you some massive in-game advantage. They don't cost a lot. I think they cost a little too much, but they don't cost a lot compared to what we're talking about here. So it's a nice little thing. I hope that that's kind of the trend we start going to, is less ship sales and more paints, more cosmetics. And if you want to get those, you can. If you don't, and I hope they're earnable too. I'd like to see more that are earnable. You know, maybe a paint version that you can buy, and an earnable, you know, or subscriber variants like what we've already seen with other things. That's right. I am coming around to ship skins being subscriber variants. I just would like to see them much more universal, and don't pick, you know, the 100i as the test bed for such a technology. So that's something else I'm getting to, is that I wish paints were more universal. So you can buy a small class paint job that can go across a dozen different ships, or an extra small paint, and that paint can be applied to many different ships. Maybe it's not, I'm not going to say every paint needs to be that way, but I'd like to see universal paints. And then finally, I'd like to see the system in game where you can pay UEC to have a custom paint job applied. It can't obviously look the same as the ones from that you purchase on the website or you earn, but at least that would be a nice option to just recolor your ship, like specific colors or two-tone colors, etc. Just for nice customization. The Vulture has reached final art phase with a final last month's focus on habitation in the cargo hold. Some of the preview pictures are pretty cool. It's being compared to the back. It's going to be rather small, but that's fine with me. That's absolutely fine. I've said before, I'm not a big fan of the advanced starters. However, I feel that the Vulture is one of those that will prove salvaging, and more on that in a little bit. But spoiler alert, salvaging is kind of like on the roadmap, is kind of all over the place. But I'll get to that in a little bit. I kind of feel like the roadmap deserves its own talk, and I will have it in the video. I'm not trying to cut corners here, but it deserves more than that. But you just understand that just because you own a Vulture does not mean you're going to be salvaging tomorrow, even if it was launched during IAE, which I'm not sure, but we'll see. The bad new merchantman made it through white box, so a lot of people will be very happy. The missed hulls continue development, so the hauler folks will be happy. But then you read A is preparing for white box review, and C approaching gray box. So C is the more exciting of the two, if you ask me. The A is the starter ship. It's very, very, very small for a whole series. The whole C is truly going to change a lot of minds about what SCU is, and start showing the purest of the haulers. Also, supposedly the Hull C is one of the most common ships in the universe, at least as of a few years ago. The devs were mentioning a lot of NPCs are flying around in Hull Cs to deliver goods and services within the systems and such. So it should be pretty cool to see, trains of, convoys of Hull Cs being defended, or maybe not so defended, to help both parties, and really make that quantum system kick in with pirates and people going after the pirates. But the weapon future team is talking about the Firestorm size 3 bombs. So these size 3 bombs are going to be, as I understand it, these are the smaller of the bombs. These are like the cluster bombs, maybe. And they're not the Moab bombs. They're not the huge mother of all bomb technology. So the Moab is like the one that only has, I think it only has like 4 of them. There's 2 on each cylinder. Last I saw the concept art. It could have changed yet again, but remember, that's a heavy balancing thing they're going to have to do with those. But, and last time I was physically sitting in an A2. I only got to sit in one once. On the PTU, we dropped 2 bombs and then the server crashed. So I'm pretty sure it had 4 on there too, that I'm thinking about it, but I'm not sure. Also, it killed everybody inside a bunker. So you figure that out. We literally dropped 2 bombs, flew down to see what happened, went in the bunker, nothing was there, server crash. I don't know. It may be killing stuff under the ground, which doesn't make any sense, or maybe that's intended. I don't know. This was a couple patches ago on the PTU. I don't show all my footage, especially if it's beat or people are cursing a lot and whatnot. And the PTU this go around for content creators has been a little rough. We've actually been shooting more of the Division Machinima, more on that later. But we've been shooting it on 3.14.1 live server. It's basically much easier to stream in the God mode like effects, where you can just stream anything in. If you die, you just respawn with all your outfit on still, and gear, and it's just much easier. It's going to be a huge learning curve for everyone in the machinima community and content creators in general, to have to keep all the supplies on hand and then deal with the consequences of people blowing up a ship or something else, where then you lose everything completely and have to start over from scratch. So buying multiple of the same item, the logistics of physically taking it to the location that you're going to shoot at, and then storing it the nearest station that's safe, is going to become basically my game plan, and that's something I've been discussing with some folks. But anyway, weapon future teams talk about the size 3 bombs. I believe these are the cluster bombs that are upcoming. Very exciting stuff. And then the upcoming ship tractor beam assets, says artwork for them. I guess the Hercules will have a tractor beam, which makes sense. Tractor beams will be across the board on many, many, many different ships. And it is something to really think about when it comes to cargo, especially as the Hull C's coming online. You've got the Hull D, possibly an E way down the line. These are ships that are going to have massive cargo holds. And then once you're at the place, how do you get it off the ship? Well, what they're talking about is being able to use the tractor beam to be able to move cargo if you're at an outpost or if you're at a smaller location. And then there'll be cargo elevators, even at these outposts, that will allow you to basically put all the materials on the cargo elevator and it's out of there. And eventually AI will be able to help you out with that, obviously for a fee. And I've said before, I'm not quite sure if they're going to include in your rental of a location, because persistent hangars are also coming in the next couple patches. If that'll be included with your AI, I would like to see that at least at first. Say 2 AI crew come with the rental, that are unload and load as you request. And maybe just a simple interface, a little drag and drop interface, but you physically actually see them moving things around and such. Okay, so the Gen 12 stuff. So for those that have not been watching the channel for a while, the Gen 12 rendering tech has been promised for a while for the game engine. And one of the things that's very exciting about the Gen 12 is not just the massive performance gains we'll have, not just the fact that it'll make it easier on the servers, which means there'll be higher player counts, hopefully. It also means that VR is on the horizon. So I've linked, if I remember, well, more accurately, if I find his posts. Okay, so I went and did my homework, and I went and found the old picture I used of him that compiled a lot of Sylvan's posts. He's a huge VR advocate from CIG. And you can pause the video if you'd like to kind of dig through this. There's a lot of information on here. This is kind of getting dated because you can see, like, this post from May. This was throughout the summer. I picked up these posts. And basically the gist of this was back then that Sylvan's thoughts were Gen 12 Vulkan was the way forward, had to be done, had to be completely sorted out before we even talk about VR. And then once that's done, once the new renderer is completed, Vulkan's fully initialized, I'm going to take a leap here and suggest, JavaScript's no longer a thing, or it's very limited. Want everything in the game, then we can start talking about VR. And he was going to start trying to lobby heavily for VR being dug in. And he is somebody that's been in the VR community for a while. He's done full body tracking. He's done videos on there and streams and such. So I have some confidence that Sylvan really deeply cares about VR and wants to see it come to fruition in Star Citizen, which would be an amazing thing for many different folks. And I'm going to avoid saying the word content creators again because I seem to keep saying it. It's just this video. So let's go into cloud rendering. So clouds are coming to other places of Star Citizen. So basically, this is something that eagle-eyed viewers noticed in the most recent video, that for IAE, it looks like we're going to have clouds. There's an Argo cargo flying over the New Babbage area of Microtech Planet. For those who are nervous about how you're going to get there, if you haven't been in the game for a long time or you're just starting out, reminder, when you first go into the game on the menus, you can pick your starting location nowadays, and you can pick New Babbage as your starting location. You can literally spawn yourself right in the city that it's at, and you'll have all your stuff, all your ships, all your vehicles, everything there. And don't forget, you obviously can rent stuff for free at IAE and experience all sorts of other ships. But as a reminder, that Argo cargo is not going to be able to fly anywhere, like as in Quantum anywhere. So sorry to pick on little Argo, but the adventures would stay local unless you make friends, which there's going to be plenty of people there. So reach out to somebody, maybe with a Carrack, or maybe if it's, Anvil Day, get somebody to grab a Carrack. You can hop in the area, kick that little Pisces to the curb, and land your Argo cargo in there, and you guys go on your merry adventures. That's certainly a possibility. But New Babbage is a long ways away from other things. There's good mining out there. There's good adventures to be had. There's really crazy biomes with very dangerous weather, but you can breathe on the planet. Very exciting place. It's just understand it's the edge of Stanton, the system that we're all in right now. Anyway, this was a post by Divi CIG that the gameplay impact has been taken into consideration, and the idea is to only have the option to disable them entirely until the performance impact of the volumetric clouds is low enough so they can be viewed on for everyone always. So, as a reminder, one of the things I recommend with clouds when it comes to our latest and greatest Orison, this planetary landing location at the gas giant of Crusader. I set my clouds on medium, volumetric settings, it's called. It's in the settings. I would suggest you do the same, just until you can see otherwise. These are brand new clouds. They're very cool, but I'm going to keep my cloud settings on medium. I usually keep everything else on high, but I keep the cloud setting on medium just for safety. But I do record, so take it what you will. Okay, so back to the monthly report. We've got the core engine team talking about game code, debugging memory. I'm going to try not to have my eyes roll over. I know it's a wall of text. I realize that. I really wish they'd, have more time on the videos, which really look really cool. Maybe get Sylvan on there. But anyway, the debugging memory is really cool. The C crash is being fixed, testing being done. I would like to see more of this information being brought over into the PTU and the live patch notes. So on the bottom of most patch notes, you will see 6 issues fixed with client, 3 issues fixed with server, and that's all you get. Major issue fixed with client. That's it. Whereas when you come into these monthlies, it actually has information, real information. The memory manager was extended to support separate allocation arenas and thread caches per dev team. Like these are things in cases of invalid memory access. So this is a really good pertinent piece of information. It doesn't seem like it impacts players until it does. When we're sitting on the PTU as testers, remember that's what you're doing when you're on the PTU. You're seeing the latest and greatest. In exchange, you're gonna be basically a tester, whether you like it or not. If you start having memory issues or crashes or other things, these are things that you can put in your detailed report. I think it has to do with this because, that's an example of how having a more informed population in the community can help players. And you have to put the information in the patch notes. It's not good enough to have a monthly report weeks after the issue is fixed to know what to look for when we're in the testing. So just some feedback on the PTU, which sounds like you want. But anyway, so actor status fixes, features. I think that the cargo refactor is going to be a major issue. And it says they're working on the IAE event as well. As a reminder, it's coming up on the 19th. Put a link below to the IAE official website, which is really just RSI, website, but it's a special IAE link. You can go there and see the full schedule of all the different ships companies, and I think it's just IAE2951.com. I'm going to do this live because I don't know any better. Apparently. Yes, so it's IAE2951.com. You just see me do it live. I don't usually do that, but you can see the little countdown clock. I am recording this on Tuesday, so you can see the days, hours, and minutes to the upcoming exciting event. And once you're in there, you can see that there's 100 spaceships for free to fly. Special edition vehicles, paints, and in-game items. And in-game items before, by the way, one of the coolest ones is the flight jacket from Jump Week, the Invictus Jump Week jacket. So I'm curious if there'll be one for IAE that's very exciting. I like the shirts from IAE a lot. They always have a cool color scheme that matches the colors of what the event is. And judging by the fact the logo is in the the background is in this color, I'm taking it to be these color schemes that this will be the background. So I'm guessing that the shirts, the hats, etc. for the IAE, not the company branded stuff, will be these lighter blues and such, and the whites and the this lighter colored blue too. Which makes sense considering where it's at. I always feel like there's a flavor of the location whenever we have a big event, and it'll be at the convention hall, the Tobin Convention Hall in New Babbage. You can take the tram. So when you wake up, you go down the elevator like normal, and you just take the tram towards the Commons. And there will be signs. I guarantee it, there'll be signs everywhere. And by the way, most of the time, some of my most fun times in the PTU were the couple days before major events, hanging out in the common area. There's this area that sells shirts, and they have little stand where characters are standing, where I'm guessing they would be welcome people and pointing to where to go and such, and whatnot, and a really cool static display of usually Marines if it's the Jump Week, or it's of ships maybe if it's IAE, because it's kind of treated like a car show, or a plane fair. But anyway, some of the coolest moments of my time in the test servers have been just hanging out in those places the couple days before. And it really sucks because I've always said the same thing over and over again. If I could have that experience again and again and again, I would take it every time. I wish it was more often because we only have two major events right now in game that are like uniters like this. I had something of that experience during, I think it was the lockdown event. Um, was it the lockdown? Might have been the Xenothreat incursion. But everybody was standing around inside the station, and basically because it was like the situation where the thing just ended. Everybody did the same thing. We all landed, and there was like seven people just hanging out. We all didn't know each other. We all just chatting away, and it was a really cool experience. The one guy started throwing a hot dog around, going running over buying more hot dogs and throwing them at people. It was good fun, and I feel like those type of things are like really what Star Citizen's about. These type of events are meant to be like a spark, hopefully that ignites the community into enjoying stuff. You should not have to feel like you have to buy a ship in order to get it. I'm not saying don't. I'm not saying don't CCU. I'm not saying look at your fleet and consider what you can melt and smartly move whichever way you feel the wind's blowing that you want. I'm just saying just remember that it should be about the community the most, and making friends, finding org mates, hanging out with your friends that you already have, and kind of celebrating these events in stride. I am glad that they chose New Babbage. I feel that Orizin's a little buggy around the edges for people with weaker PCs. New Babbage was a smart move, and it allows more of the community to enjoy the event. And it allows me to be able to go to my friends, to go to my org mates, and wake them up, and the ones that are more long term players that haven't been back for a bit, and kind of remind them it's time to update, time to patch, get your butt in here and enjoy yourself and have a great time. And that's what this is to me. This is 13 days of good fun. That's what this is to me. So I'm glad to see it back. I'm glad to see it at New Babbage. It's a great host. Glad to see Jax McCleary back. One of my videos I'll put in the cards at the end is like I was reviewing, I think it's first year of Jax McCleary, like his first official like season, so to speak, where every day he had a new video. I remember days off of work, I would literally log in just to see his videos. I was enjoying the heck out of them. So there's those little tiny clips. They're all blurred out in the background because back then the engine wasn't too hot. Apologize for that. But what I feel is very exciting stuff. Now, let's finish this up here. Uh, the lighting is pretty cool, and this is something that's kind of been an overall overhaul for everything in the game. Lighting is going to become critical. There's different modes of lighting. Nice little Kraken hologram in the background there. Don't know if it's a Kraken Privateer or a regular Kraken, but it should be cool to be able to see something like that. Hopefully that's in. I feel like that's not actually at IAE though. That looks like Crow. So that looks like Crow's custom, especially with the graffiti from his Banu background. And somebody who's raised by the Banu, he had a very unique perspective, and he had basically Crow's Customs is covered in graffiti. So that's probably a Kraken Privateer in a hologram at Crow's Custom, not an IAE. I hope that is that's a little awkward if that makes it to 315, because basically people will want to come all the way from New Babbage to Orizon just to see Crow's Custom shop. Okay, yeah. Look Dev Past began on Pyro's abandoned space stations. So Pyro's gonna be dotted in these things. If you missed my earlier video about Pyro, the space stations are gonna be everywhere. Some are gonna be hit by an asteroid. Some are gonna be destroyed. Some are gonna be looted. Some are gonna be salvaged. Some of them are gonna be partially open, or all of the above plus partially open. And whether depending on which pirate faction is running it or who you trust and not, you may want to stop there to get some vitally needed fuel or food and then move on very quickly. So it should be very exciting. I hope there's a lot of missions in the abandoned space stations, just like I hope there's a lot of missions in the outposts, which are upcoming for Pyro. Sorry, didn't mean to say 315, but for Pyro. Very cool that the Montreal-based locations team. Come on, give them credit where credit's due. The Turbulent team. So Turbulent put the final touches on the Area 18's hospital, which is due for release in Alpha 3.16. So obviously this is after IAE, and it's a little ways down the line. This involved completing polishing tasks, lighting on level of detail, building level of detail for the entire location, and fixing any remaining bugs. Hospital's progressing well. Maria Pure of Heart in Lorville and the rest of the stopped clinics. That's going to be, I think, final stages of development. I believe they're basically the gist was not all locations will be complete for 3.15. Clearly, Area 18 is dragging behind, but they're putting some beautiful touches on that. But in 3.15, you're going to have Lorville, you're going to have this clinics. You already have Breville, which is already open in the PTU live in New Babbage. So I can kind of see where they're coming from on this. I think Grim Hex also 3.15 because people won't have anywhere else to go. I think it's pretty cool that they're already going for Levski's white boxing. That's pretty neat. I hope to see Levski. As a reminder, Levski's no longer even in Stanton. It's in the Nick system now. So, a little interesting. Hopefully that's another indicator that we're right around the corner for multiple other systems. Because I am hoping to see as soon as possible from Stanton to Nix. And that includes Pyro on the way, by the way. So I am excited, to say the least, about the prospects of post. I'll call it post Stanton only, Stanton focus, because Stanton is very well done. It's almost finished, and I think that's kind of an indicator right there. They're finishing up Area 18, and they're already talking about working on Levski, which is another vital location. It'll be a very vital location in Nick's system. So, looking ahead, things like that. QA's primary publishing focus was on CitizenCon, Alpha 3.15 for Evo, and Wave 1 testing. As I mentioned before, QA. Please get more information from the engine folks, from the server folks. If you want us to get some of that deeper meat and potatoes information, you got to give us a couple hints more in the push for that to be put in the patch notes. And then, bam, we can get it to you. And then you can get those reports in when we have those server crash notes and issue council posts. You will have it. We're here for you. Let us help you. Help me help you. So, rewritten major parts of the DNA system used to create our in-game actors. Coupled with this, we have added translation. What I like about this is there'll be more different kinds of heads, and this will be the long-awaited hairstyle upgrades. So I'm hoping to see much bigger, as they call it, gene pool limits. It's a weird way to put it, but okay. I'm just hoping to see more opportunities, options, and there you go. Face rigs for aliens and animals. That sounds very fun and exciting. Sure. Tools like that are really neat. So I hope to see it. Okay. Live Tools team progressed with Hex tool detail late last month. They actually mentioned Turbulent here. This is crash handling pipeline in preparation for deployment next month, alongside a new update to the Panic API to support upcoming changes. Cool. And yeah, great. More tools, more powerful things. A tool today is content down the line. I think it was like one of the live shows where Jared was sitting down with somebody and they were showing off props, the prop team. And the prop team was talking about how, oh yeah, we just clicked this button and this button. And basically when you pause the video and you kind of went frame by frame, you could see all the different tests, all the different methodologies that went into it, well beyond what the normal program would run, because they're all hard lessons that were learned in the past to make those 2-button clicks work. So it was like traffic cones they were making around an Argo cargo, and it looked great. and it was really cool to see their reflective capabilities and the emission from underneath on that the glass effect. But anyway, the point is that the tool you make today is content later. So I think a lot of folks are kind of looking excitedly at. Here we go. Size 10 bombs are now looking significantly better than a functional pass shown on Star Citizen. One of the CIG members mentioned on Reddit that they wanted bombs to be terrifying. Like when a size 10 bomb goes off, you want to not be anywhere near it, and you want to feel the full power of it. So that's pretty cool. You can see the ground storm effects were rebalanced. That's pretty neat. So that's pretty cool. We talked about the clouds. We are going to go into these two videos. Before I start with those, let me talk about the fall referral bonus. The Argo is the fall referral bonus till December 1. December 1. I think in one of my previous videos I actually said November 1, but it was well past November 1, so please forgive me. If you see here, it says it starts on November 1. It ends on December 1. So if you haven't already done this, be sure to get and you have a brand new account, be sure to contact your friend, your new workmate, whoever talked you into getting into Star Citizen, and make sure that you build an account around them. If you just made it now, it might be even a good idea to just replace your account, because you can't add it. You can't add the referral after you made the account and set it up and everything. I know that's a hard issue to take, but you're getting a free ship out of it. So that's just a thought. Be sure to check with them, because you will get a free ship that's like valued at like $35 USD with LTI. And understand, as I mentioned earlier, it does not have quantum, but this is a great ship to have to kind of pal around in. You can use it on another ship that can be basically carried around. It'll be great locally at outposts and other operations in the future, and you can also CCU it. In my lore video just before this one, I showed you through the CCU chain click for click. You can go back to that one if you'd like. It's at the end. It's in the overtime section. But the gist is 3 good options. Pisces is like a $10 USD upgrade. And for a bit more, you got the 315p for explorers, 325a for combat. Both of those last two have beds. So they're my advice currently with the current options. During IAE, you'll have plenty more options than CCU. A CCU is something that upgrades this ship to something else. You don't have to do that for a long time. If ever, you don't have to do it at all. But just understand that you and your friend will get a free ship. If you have absolutely no one on this planet that you can get a code from, I have a code in the description below. But once again, your friends will greatly appreciate it. I wanted to kind of do something a little different here. Right before we jump into the main videos, I'm going to mention 2 different videos. I have one loaded up here. This is Divisions. I'm not going to spoil the brand new episode. I'm just going to show you the preview at the beginning. But this is a machinima I've done work in, and I continue to support and work in, that I really think is greatly underappreciated. I think the work that everybody over there does is fantastic. So if you feel like giving them a shot, there's a link below to Divisions episode 3. If you have never seen the episodes before, episode 1 probably a better chance to go for. So be sure to give them a shot. I am not going to spoil which voices I am or what I do on the show. You can see it in the bloopers, though, if you'd like to check that out. So that is the first video. And then I'd also like to show... That's right, I'm doing a lot of live stuff today. I just checked out Sneemaster's Polaris review. And this is the first time I'm doing this, I think, as far as I know, where I'm mentioning somebody else's review about a ship. But I do like the level of detail that Sneemaster made. I like that he went really in depth about that. I appreciate his support of the channel. He's a subscriber of the channel. And I greatly appreciate that. I'm not affiliated with him in any way. He probably is going to be surprised if he sees this. I hope he does. But I think that going through this, his honest and fair view of the Polaris is pretty dang cool. And yes, it's a lot of brochure pictures, but that's what most of us have to do with the concept videos. Every one of these is a challenge, and I wanted to recognize when somebody gets it right, that's pretty dang cool. So I'll also have a link to his video below. once again, I had nothing to do with this video. I just thought it was great. I think he did a great job. He mentions the need for hot bunking is a possibility because it's only 12 beds. He discusses the concerns with the multiple ships on board if you're trying to squeeze them into that hangar. And I think it's pretty cool talking about the concepts of the size of the modules on board and kind of giving the Polaris kind of a modern look. So I'd give his video a look if you're interested in the Polaris, because I'm sure as heck not going to be making a video about the Polaris in the next couple. Well, I hope probably before IAE even hits, unless it would be just a small passing mention in another cap talk where I keep comparing the main discussion point to the Polaris. It is a great ship. This is as much as I'm going to say about it because I don't want to ruin his video, but I feel like when us in the community need to look out for each other and recognize good work. Okay, so with all that out of the way, don't forget to subscribe. But let's go into some of these videos. Now, with these videos, there's usually a mixed bag, especially on the live ones. I prefer to record the Twitch variant because it gives a lot more energy to the live video. But if you're after the fact, well, there's YouTube.
Going back to 2014, 2015, 2016 days, might remember a familiar refrain, which I'm sure, I hope it doesn't give you PTSD, but, we're waiting. It's like, this feature is waiting on UI. This feature is waiting on UI. This feature is waiting on UI. That was such a common refrain back in those days because of what David just said earlier about how it's like you'd get to the end of the feature, then it's like, okay, slap a UI on it. It's like it was very clear that UI being downstream of everything was not the solution for a project as broad as Star Citizen. So not to keep harping on the success of building blocks, but building blocks is having these new refinements to process that you guys have made and the new tools that you've provided have definitely sped up the process. That said, like any team on Star Citizen, any team working on any feature, there are only so many things we can work on at any given time. You have to prioritize and stuff like that. So not everything can be worked on all at once. The next question. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just to I was at this sort of point of that when everyone was waiting for UI, and this is why Chris correctly sort of pivoted it, the team at that point. So it's like this isn't going to work. We can't develop because we want to grow how many features we're going to develop, and that's just unless we just magic out of thin air another 20 UI guys, it's just not going to grow. It just turns into this great big bottleneck. So that is why around 2017, I think it was, we did change the mechanism that we wanted to develop the UI and go wide and like spread it across a lot of these teams so we can I want to say put the onus back on them because it's also like when any trouble comes in, it's not just developing it, it's like at release time inevitably there's a few problems with any given feature, but if you have 10 features and each of them have a few UI bugs in them, and they all have to be done by one UI team, it becomes a real bottleneck. So it was really good to go wide across the company, and each of those guys then get the ownership of their particular feature from start to finish, and not just go, it's done, just needs UI. We're just waiting on the UI guys. It's like, you are the UI guys now, right?
Right.
Bar some
completely different paradigm shift in the UI. And that was kind of the nicest highlight I could grab from that I really said. And it also fit on my whiteboard is very, very full at the moment for this video because I've kind of been trying to play catch up for this week. I'm trying to cover a couple different topics because I'm hoping to be able to go into ship deep dives later this week into early next week, preparing for IAE. But I do not want to neglect my teams, especially tools teams, recognizing our folks that are UI, recognizing awesome things like this. So what you're hearing is we were so successful at rolling out building blocks and having this universal system for the UIs across the board that basically we basically became tenders of different things than developers. And no longer was every single team turning back to our small UI team and going, where's our UI? Well, we're waiting on UI. We're waiting on UI. And everybody's looking at their steps and going, why isn't UI fixing this? Instead, UI handed them the keys and said, you're the UI now. We're just here to answer your questions. We're just here to provide technical support if something doesn't work, but we're expecting you to build this. And building blocks is way bigger than just the ASOP terminals we've heard many times now on these videos. Building blocks is going to be everything. Even like when you open your 400i and you saw or if you've seen my video, if you're not on the PTU, when you open the switches and you see all the different options and you see the Crusader logo for a little bit, then you finally saw the Origin logo. That wasn't a coincidence. Each company is going to have a different building blocks design style, and those switches and those menus and everything else are going to slowly permeate throughout the ship. Every single part of everything in the game that has a screen will have, maybe not necessarily building blocks, but will certainly have this touch of this universal code that is up to date and ready for Gen 12, ready for what's needed, not Java based, and very cool stuff. I loved that little back and forth there. I really appreciated that honesty from their team. I wanted to recognize both of them, but I only have time for the one. Basically, when I start talking about these support personnel, unfortunately, everybody clicks away. So here's my other timestamp. Let's get into the gadget video, and let's take a look at some of these cool new tech.
Once you placed it, then you have to find the resonance of the stone that you just attached the device to. It's our mini game, but it's a meaningful mini game.
It's kind of a small puzzle, aligning some slider bars with a wave. The idea is that if you get over a certain percentage, you can activate it.
There's a confirmation, so it starts blinking. That means that it's now functional. You get back to your prospector and you do your mining process.
It's gonna put this effect on the rock until you destroy the gadget, you deactivate it, or the rock breaks apart. Right now we're really working on the animations and the art for it. It's gonna be a lot of work in progress.
As to where we want to take the miner player experience in the future, we are looking right now at ship refining and getting the Starfarer to be able to refine whatever the prospector and mole are harvesting right there on the spot together with their mining buddies. And that's what we think will close that lovely gameplay loop of resource acquisition from mining.
Mining gadgets are the latest in a long line of expansions and improvements to the overall mining gameplay as the team continues bringing it up to what we consider a gold standard for other professions to follow. And you can look...
That's exactly right. Gold standard for other professions to follow. Mining will have... I'm going to switch over to the heads now, showing you some of the up-to-date stuff on that. And there's part of the sprint report while I'm talking. So if you want to hear the whole video, as always, they're linked below. The original content's always linked below. All rights go to CIG, of course. I mention that every couple of videos, I think now. But the biggest gist of mining is going to be the gadgets are going to allow for harder rocks to be accessed or faster mining potential. So it is actually possible a couple folks could run out there with prospectors, and let's say you have two prospectors and there's a third guy, and he's going, hey, I don't have one, friends. And they go, oh, no problem. Come over in anything else. Come over in a Pisces. Come over in a Cutlass. Come over in anything else and fly over, and you can do guard duty. You can keep an eye on things. You can also stop off and run around and put those mining gadgets on if we find something very expensive, and maybe scout out for more. Keep hitting that tab key and finding us more potential places to mine. So that's an example of how you can kind of interface with different folks. I like the mining gadgets. I think they're really cool. I'd be curious how well they work with ROCs. I think that's a really neat concept. I think that there's a lot to go into the technology that we have now. And yeah, I'm glad to see mining coming along. Right now in the PTU, the mining is kind of non-existent. as of the last patch, this could change by the time I rendered this out, and it's tonight, because they're talking about assessing a new build for tonight, for Tuesday night. But basically, the gist is that mining does not allow you to mine the rocks on the planet side, and that's kind of where most people mine. And I feel like a lot of things are going to be Bagman. But I feel like a lot of things are going to be set in stone later. Right now, we have to remember we're in the PTUs, and we're on early patches of an alpha. Even when it's live, you just hope that it works as best it can. But mining should hopefully become the golden standard for other professions to follow over time. I think hauling is going to be the next focus after they finally get mining back up and running, and with all these gadgets, with the mining system in place, with refining in place, by the way, is going to be a major step, like they mentioned, with the Starfarers, the Starfarer and the Starfarer G. I think it's going to be a big year for them at IAE. If anything, I've always pushed the Starfarer G to the Endeavor CCU because it's $10 USD, and it gives you a nice benefit for the future to kind of hedge cost against. So even if you don't like the Endeavor, it's a capital class ship, and the Starfarer is not. So even the base Endeavor is worth $10 more, and you can use store credit or something if you got some laying around. But the big thing to focus on with that is the Starfarer and the Star G may go up a bit, especially if they have a working refinery that can make tons of in-game money, because they will, and they will need to be defended. The Star G less so. It technically has armor in theory. Right now it's just extra hit points and such, as far as I understand it. But eventually those armored fuel tanks on the back and such, and its extra military mindset and its missile pod and such will matter. So over time, I think the Starfarers will really be a shining feature, even though I think the interiors of them are abysmal. I think they're really bizarre. Then CIG admitted they're built as basically an FPS gameplay for like a 4v4 essentially, and they show it. They're really, really bad on the inside, and you can see some of the Pyro space station art passes going through, and some pretty cool stuff here. But like I said, if you want to check out these videos, go for it. I'm going to do more of these highlights where I really pick like the really critical things to really nail down and get into these videos. And let me know what you think of the new audio chain. Let me know what you think of these videos and the format I've chosen and the community involvement. Do you feel that I shouldn't or should have more or less community content? Like I mentioned the Machinima of Divisions, like I mentioned Sneemaster's really cool Polaris video. I feel like giving a nod to community members is great, but maybe tone it down or increase it in the future. Yeah, so that's where I'm going to leave you all, and I wish you all a great night and fly safe.